Marcus Chen wiped the grease from his hands with an old rag as he stood outside his repair shop on Kepler Station. The space station orbited a gas giant in the Centauri system, and it served as a trading hub for dozens of species. His small workshop sat in the lower levels, where rent was cheap and the clientele was usually desperate. The morning had been quiet until she walked in. The alien woman stood nearly 7 feet tall, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer under the workshop's harsh lighting. Her eyes were large and silver, set in an angular face that somehow managed to look both fierce and beautiful. She wore a form-fitting flight suit that had seen better days, and her long white hair was pulled back in a practical braid. "Are you the human engineer?" she asked. Her voice carried a musical quality that made Marcus pause in his work. "That's me. Marcus Chen." He set down his plasma torch and gave her his full attention. "What can I do for you?" The woman hesitated, glancing around the cluttered workshop. Tools hung from every available surface, and half-dismantled ship components filled the workbenches. It wasn't much to look at, but Marcus took pride in his work. "My ship needs repairs. The main engine is failing, and the navigation system has completely shut down." She paused. "I've been to 3 other repair shops on this station. They all said the damage was too extensive." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "What kind of ship?" "A Valdris cruiser. Class 7. He let out a low whistle. Valdris ships were known throughout the galaxy for their advanced technology. They were also notoriously difficult to repair, especially for non-Valdris engineers. Most mechanics wouldn't even attempt to work on one. That's ambitious. Mind if I take a look?" The woman studied his face for a long moment. "You would attempt what others have refused?" "I didn't get into this business by backing down from challenges." Marcus grabbed his toolkit. "Lead the way." They took a transit pod to the station's docking bay. The Valdris cruiser sat in berth 47, and Marcus had to admit it was a beautiful ship. The hull was made of some kind of dark metal that seemed to absorb light, and the design was all flowing curves and elegant angles. It looked more like a work of art than a spacecraft. "Impressive," he said as they approached the airlock. "What's her name?" "Star Whisper," the woman replied. "She has been in my family for 3 generations." The airlock cycled, and they stepped aboard. The interior was just as stunning as the exterior. Soft bioluminescent panels provided gentle lighting, and the walls seemed to pulse with a faint rhythm. It was unlike any human ship Marcus had ever seen. "I am Zara, by the way," the woman said as she led him through the corridors. "I should have introduced myself earlier." "Nice to meet you, Zara. Now, let's see what we're dealing with." The engine room was a disaster. Burned components lay scattered across the floor, and several critical systems showed signs of catastrophic failure. Marcus ran his scanner over the main engine core and frowned at the readings. "What happened here?" Zara's expression darkened. "Pirates. They damaged my ship during an attack near the outer rim. I barely escaped with my life." Marcus nodded grimly. Pirate attacks had become more common in recent months, especially in the lawless sectors beyond civilized space. He moved to the navigation console and connected his diagnostic tablet. "The good news is that your main engine isn't completely destroyed. The core is intact, but you've lost most of your power distribution network." He pointed to a cluster of burned circuits. "These will all need to be replaced." "And the bad news? Valdris components are nearly impossible to find. Your people don't exactly share their technology freely." Marcus scratched his chin. "But I might have a workaround." He spent the next hour crawling through the ship's systems, mapping out the damage and taking detailed measurements. Zara followed him, answering his questions about the ship's various systems. Despite the language barrier, they communicated well. Her knowledge of her ship was impressive, and she seemed to understand engineering principles better than most civilians. "You know a lot about starship mechanics," Marcus observed as he emerged from behind a power coupling. "My people believe in understanding the tools we depend on. A ship is more than just transportation. It is a living partner in our journey through the stars." Marcus had to smile at that. He'd known plenty of human pilots who talked about their ships like they were alive, but there was something different about the way Zara said it. She genuinely seemed to believe it. They returned to his workshop as the station's artificial day cycle shifted to evening. Marcus spread the diagnostic reports across his main workbench and began sketching out a repair plan. "The way I see it, we have two options," he said. "Option 1 is to wait for original Vulrus parts, which could take months and cost more than the ship is worth." Zara winced. "And Option 2? I adapt human and coalition standard components to work with your systems. It'll take some creative engineering, but it can be done." Other engineers said this was impossible. Marcus grinned. "That's because they were thinking like engineers instead of thinking like humans. We're pretty good at making things work that shouldn't work." He pulled up a holographic display of the ship's power distribution system. "Your people designed this to be perfect. Every component fits exactly where it's supposed to go, with no variation or tolerance for substitution. It's elegant, but it's not flexible. And human engineering is different? Human engineering is built around the assumption that things will go wrong." Marcus highlighted several areas on the display. "We design our systems to be modular, reparable, and adaptable. We expect failures and plan for them." Zara studied the hologram with interest. "This approach seems crude." "Maybe. But it's also practical. Your ship is beautiful and sophisticated, but when something breaks, you're stuck. Human ships might not be as pretty, but we can usually get them running again with spare parts and determination." They worked late into the evening, with Marcus explaining his repair strategy and Zara providing insights into Veldris technology. Despite the language barriers and cultural differences, they found a surprising rhythm working together. "I must ask," Zara said during a break, "why are you willing to attempt this repair when others would not?" Marcus leaned back in his chair. "Honestly? Because it's interesting. I've been fixing the same types of ships for years. This is something new, something that will teach me things I didn't know before. You risk failure. If you cannot repair my ship, you will have wasted considerable time and effort." "That's true. But if I succeed, I'll have learned something valuable. And you'll have your ship back." Zara was quiet for a moment. "Human motivations are unusual." "How so?" "Most species approach problems from a position of minimizing risk. Humans seem to embrace uncertainty." Marcus laughed. "I guess we do. It's probably why we're one of the few species crazy enough to leave our home planet before we had reliable faster-than-light travel. The galactic community still speaks of that achievement with amazement. Most civilizations develop interstellar travel gradually, over centuries. Humans made the leap in a single generation. We're impatient. Once we know something is possible, we want it right now." They returned to work, and Marcus began pulling components from his inventory. Most of his stock consisted of coalition standard parts, designed to be compatible across multiple species technologies. It was a far cry from the elegant precision of Valdris engineering, but it had one major advantage: it was available. "These power couplers are rated for twice the current your system requires," he explained as he modified a connector. "They're heavier and less efficient than your original components, but they'll do the job." Zara watched him work with fascination. "You are reshaping those components by hand?" "That's right. A little heat, some careful bending, and we can make this fit your power distribution manifold." Marcus held up the modified part. "It's not pretty, but it'll work. This is why other engineers refused the job. They could not conceive of such improvisation." Marcus grinned. "That's the human advantage right there. We don't just think outside the box. We tear the box apart and use the pieces to build something completely different." As the station's night cycle deepened, they made significant progress. Marcus had identified substitute components for most of the damaged systems, and his preliminary tests showed that his adaptations would work. It wouldn't be easy, and it would take time, but Zara's ship could be saved. "I should let you rest," Zara said as Marcus stifled a yawn. "We can continue tomorrow. Actually, I'm curious about something. If you don't mind me asking, where were you headed when the pirates attacked?" Zara's expression grew somber. "I was returning home to Valdris Prime. My father is dying, and I wanted to see him one last time." Marcus felt a pang of sympathy. Family was important, and being stranded far from home during a crisis had to be devastating.
How long has it been since the attack?
12 standard days.
I have been searching for someone who could repair my ship.
She paused.
The medical facility here sent word to my family. They estimate I have perhaps another week before.
She didn't finish the sentence, but Marcus understood. Her father was running out of time, and every day spent on repairs was a day she couldn't get back.
We'll work fast, he promised.
I'll start first thing tomorrow, and I'll put in as many hours as it takes.
Zara looked surprised. You would do this for someone you barely know?
You're trying to get home to see your family.
That's something I can understand.
She studied his face in the dim workshop lighting. You continue to surprise me, Marcus Chen. Human nature is more complex than our briefings suggested.
After Zara left, Marcus remained in his workshop, reviewing the repair plans and making notes.
The challenge was even greater than he'd initially thought, but it was also more interesting. Valdris technology operated on principles that were completely foreign to human engineering, but not incomprehensible. The key was understanding the philosophy behind their design choices.
Were humans built for adaptability and redundancy, the Valdris built for harmony and efficiency.
Their ships were like musical instruments, with every component tuned to work in perfect harmony with every other component.
That presented unique challenges when it came to repairs.
Human components were designed to work in a wide variety of conditions, but they operated on different frequencies and power curves than Valdris systems.
Making them compatible would require more than just physical adaptation.
He would need to create interface modules that could translate between the two technological languages. Marcus pulled up his design software and began sketching out converter circuits. It was going to be a long night, but he found himself energized by the challenge. This was the kind of problem that had drawn him to engineering in the first place.
It wasn't just about fixing something that was broken. It was about bridging the gap between two completely different ways of thinking about technology.
As he worked, he found himself thinking about Zara's comment about human nature being more complex than expected. It made him wonder what the galactic community really thought about humanity. Humans were relative newcomers to interstellar civilization, having achieved faster-than-light travel less than 2 centuries ago. Most other species had been spacefaring for millennia.
From what he'd heard, many aliens viewed humans as unpredictable and slightly dangerous.
They admired human adaptability and innovation, but they were also wary of human impulsiveness and tendency to take risks that other species would consider foolish.
Maybe that was fair. Humans did have a tendency to leap before they looked.
But it was also what made them effective problem solvers. While other species might spend years studying a problem before attempting a solution, humans were willing to try something and see what happened. That approach had its drawbacks, but it also led to breakthroughs that more cautious species might never achieve. Human technology might not be as elegant as Valdris engineering or as reliable as Corvin manufacturing, but it was innovative and adaptable. Marcus worked until the early hours of the morning, designing interface modules and mapping out the installation process. By the time he finally went to bed, he had a complete plan for repairing Zara's ship. It would take 3 days of intensive work, but it could be done.
The next morning, Zara arrived at his workshop carrying a container of what appeared to be alien coffee.
The beverage had a strange blue color and smelled like cinnamon mixed with ozone, but it was surprisingly good. I thought you might need energy for the work ahead, she said. Marcus accepted the drink gratefully.
Thanks. I've got good news.
I think we can have you flying again in 3 days.
Zara's eyes widened. 3 days?
The others said it would be impossible even with proper parts.
The others weren't thinking like humans.
Marcus showed her the plans he'd developed. These interface modules will allow Coalition standard components to communicate with your ship's systems. It's a bit like teaching two people who speak different languages to work together. They spent the morning gathering the necessary components. Marcus had most of what he needed in stock, but a few specialized items required a trip to the station's electronics markets. Zara proved to be an excellent negotiating partner, using her knowledge of alien technology to identify the best quality components at reasonable prices. You have a good eye for engineering, Marcus told her as they returned to the workshop with their purchases.
I studied systems integration at the Valdris Technical Institute. I was trained as a ship's engineer before I chose a different path. What path did you choose? Zara hesitated. I became a diplomatic courier.
I carry sensitive communications between government officials across the galaxy.
That explained a lot.
Diplomatic couriers needed ships that could travel quickly and quietly, and they often found themselves in dangerous situations. It also explained why she was traveling alone and why her ship was so well equipped despite its civilian appearance. They began the installation process immediately. The work was complex and demanding, requiring precise calibration of each interface module.
Marcus found himself impressed by Zara's technical knowledge.
She understood her ship's systems better than many professional engineers understood their own equipment.
Your people really do believe in understanding their tools, he observed as she helped him align a power coupling. It is more than belief. It is necessity. Zara adjusted the coupling with practiced precision.
A Valdris ship is not just a machine.
It is a partner.
We must understand it to work with it effectively.
That's an interesting way to think about it.
Humans tend to see ships as tools that we control.
And yet you speak of your work with passion and creativity. You do not simply repair my ship.
You innovate, you adapt, you find new solutions.
Perhaps the difference is smaller than it appears. Marcus had to admit she had a point.
Good engineers did develop relationships with their work, even if they didn't think of it in the same terms as the Valdris. The first day's work went smoothly. By evening, they had successfully installed the power distribution interfaces and tested the basic systems. The ship's lights came back on, and the environmental systems resumed normal operation. She lives again, Zara said with obvious relief as they stood on the ship's bridge.
We're just getting started. Tomorrow we tackle the navigation systems and the main engine.
As they prepared to leave for the night, Zara turned to Marcus with a serious expression.
I must ask you something.
This repair work, it is far more complex than routine maintenance.
You are essentially redesigning portions of my ship.
What will you charge for such service?
Marcus had been dreading this question. The work was indeed complex and time-consuming, and it required specialized knowledge that commanded premium rates.
Under normal circumstances, he would charge enough to cover his costs plus a reasonable profit.
But these weren't normal circumstances.
Zara was racing against time to see her dying father, and he doubted she had the resources to pay standard rates for this kind of custom engineering work. Let's worry about that after we get you flying again, he said.
That is not an answer. Marcus sighed. Honestly, I'm not sure yet. This is unlike anything I've done before.
Let me see how much time and materials it actually takes, and we'll figure out something fair.
Zara studied his face. You are being evasive. Why?
Because I don't want you to worry about money when you should be focusing on getting home to your family. Her expression softened. You continue to surprise me, Marcus Chen. As they walked back to the main station, Marcus found himself enjoying Zara's company more than he'd expected. Despite their differences in species and background, they worked well together. She was intelligent, curious, and surprisingly funny once she relaxed. Can I ask you something? He said as they waited for a transit pod.
Of course. What do the Valdris really think about humans?
I get the impression that most alien species see us as useful but unpredictable.
Zara considered the question carefully.
The official position is that humans are valuable members of the galactic community. Your adaptability and innovation have contributed much to our collective advancement.
And the unofficial position?
She smiled.
That humans are fascinating and slightly terrifying.
You accomplish things that should be impossible, often through methods that no sane being would attempt.
Is that good or bad?
Both. Your species has a talent for finding solutions that others cannot conceive. But you also have a tendency to create problems that others would never risk.
Marcus laughed. That sounds about right.
The transit pod arrived, and they climbed aboard. As the pod moved through the station's transport network, Marcus found himself thinking about the cultural differences between humans and other species. It was interesting how those differences could be both barriers and opportunities.
In this case, the very traits that made other engineers avoid Zara's repair job were what allowed him to tackle it successfully.
Human willingness to improvise and take risks was exactly what the situation required. They reached the residential section where Zara had taken temporary quarters. As she prepared to leave, she turned back to Marcus. "Thank you," she said simply. "Not just for the repairs, but for taking the risk when others would not. Thank you for trusting me with your ship. I know it means a lot to you." She nodded. "It does. But I am beginning to understand that there are more important things than perfect engineering." As Marcus watched her walk away, he reflected on what she'd said. Perfect engineering was something to strive for, but adaptability and problem-solving were often more valuable than perfection. It was a lesson that humans had learned long ago, and it served them well in a galaxy full of challenges. The second day brought new challenges and unexpected discoveries. Marcus arrived at the docking bay early, eager to continue the work on Star Whisper's navigation systems. He found Zara already aboard, running diagnostics on the systems they had repaired the previous day. "Everything looks good," she reported as he climbed through the ship's corridors. "Power distribution is stable, and environmental systems are operating within normal parameters." Marcus nodded, pleased with their progress. "Good. Today we tackle the navigation array. That's going to be the tricky part." The navigation system was located in the ship's central core, surrounded by delicate quantum processors and gravitational sensors. The pirate attack had damaged several key components, but the real challenge was integrating human replacement parts with Veldris technology. "Your navigation system is incredibly sophisticated," Marcus observed as he studied the array. "It doesn't just plot courses through normal space. It maps quantum fluctuations and gravitational currents. Veldris ships navigate by reading the natural flows of spacetime," Zara explained. "We follow the currents rather than fighting against them. It allows for more efficient travel and less stress on the ship systems." Marcus was fascinated. Human navigation relied heavily on brute force calculations and powerful engines. They plotted the shortest distance between 2 points and pushed through whatever obstacles lay in their path. The Veldris approach was more elegant, like sailing with the wind rather than motoring against it. "Can you teach me how it works?" he asked. Zara looked surprised. "You wish to understand Veldris navigation principles? If I'm going to repair this system, I need to understand how it operates. Human replacement parts won't work the same way as your original components." They spent the morning with Zara explaining the theoretical foundations of Veldris navigation while Marcus examined the damaged hardware. It was unlike anything in human space travel. Where humans used computers to calculate trajectories, the Veldris used organic processors that could sense subtle energy patterns in space itself. "This is incredible," Marcus said as he studied a damaged sensor node. "These aren't just mechanical components. They're partially biological. All Veldris technology incorporates living elements. We believe that purely mechanical devices lack the sensitivity and adaptability needed for true harmony with natural forces." That explained why other engineers had refused the job. They were trying to replace living systems with dead machinery. It simply wouldn't work without a completely different approach. Marcus began sketching out a new design concept. Instead of directly replacing the biological components, he would create interface layers that could translate between organic Veldris sensors and digital human processors. "This is fascinating work," Zara commented as she watched him design the interface modules. "You are creating a bridge between two fundamentally different approaches to technology. It's like teaching a computer to understand music, or teaching a musician to program," Marcus agreed. "Both are dealing with information, but they process it in completely different ways." The work was painstaking and required constant adjustment. Each interface module needed to be calibrated to the specific characteristics of both the Veldris sensors and the human processors. Marcus found himself learning more about quantum mechanics and gravitational physics than he had ever expected. "Your species has a talent for synthesis," Zara observed during a break. "You take ideas from multiple sources and combine them in unexpected ways. That's probably because we're relatively new to galactic civilization. We don't have centuries of established traditions telling us how things are supposed to work. Perhaps that is an advantage. Established civilizations sometimes become too comfortable with existing solutions." Marcus had to agree. Human engineering was often criticized for being crude or inelegant, but it was also innovative and adaptable. They weren't bound by traditional approaches, which allowed them to find solutions that more experienced species might overlook. By midday, they had successfully installed the first interface module and begun testing the navigation sensors. The results were encouraging. The hybrid system wasn't as sensitive as the original Valdris technology, but it was functional. Readings are stable, Zara reported from the ship's bridge. Quantum resonance is within acceptable parameters, though sensitivity is reduced by approximately 30%. 30% is better than 0%, Marcus replied through the comms system. Can you work with that level of performance? It will be sufficient for basic navigation. I can compensate for the reduced sensitivity with manual adjustments. They continued working through the afternoon, installing and calibrating additional interface modules. The process was becoming more efficient as Marcus learned to anticipate the integration challenges. Each successful installation taught him more about the fundamental differences between human and Valdris technology. You know, Marcus said as he connected the final navigation interface, this hybrid approach might actually have some advantages over purely Valdris technology. Zara raised an eyebrow. How so? Your original systems were incredibly sophisticated, but they were also fragile. These hybrid modules are more robust. They might not be as sensitive, but they're less likely to fail under stress. Robustness versus elegance, Zara mused. An interesting trade-off. Every engineering decision involves trade-offs. The key is understanding what you're optimizing for. As evening approached, they had successfully restored basic navigation capability to Star Whisper. The ship could plot courses and detect gravitational currents, though not with the precision of its original systems. Tomorrow we work on the main engine, Marcus said as they prepared to leave the ship. That's going to be the biggest challenge yet. I have confidence in your abilities, Zara replied. You have already accomplished what others said was impossible. They walked back to the main station together, discussing the technical challenges that lay ahead. The main engine was the most complex system on the ship, and integrating human components would require even more sophisticated interface technology. Can I ask you something personal? Marcus said as they reached the residential section. Of course. What's your father like? You mentioned he's dying, but you haven't talked much about him. Zara's expression grew thoughtful. He is a scholar and a teacher. He has spent his life studying ancient Valdris history and philosophy. He believes that understanding the past is essential for navigating the future. Sounds like a wise man. He is. He is also stubborn and proud, like many Valdris of his generation. When I chose to become a diplomatic courier instead of following a traditional academic path, he was disappointed. Marcus heard the pain in her voice. Family relationships were complicated, regardless of species. Does he know you're trying to get home to see him? No. We have not spoken in several years. I am not even certain he will want to see me. Family is family. I'm sure he'll be glad to have you there. Zara looked uncertain. I hope so. But the last conversation we had was difficult. They reached the entrance to her temporary quarters, and Zara paused before going inside. Marcus, can I ask you about human family customs? Do humans maintain close relationships with their families even when they disagree about important matters? Marcus considered the question. It varies, but generally yes. We tend to believe that family bonds are stronger than disagreements about careers or life choices. Blood is blood, as we say. That is reassuring. Valdris culture places great emphasis on harmony and consensus. When family members disagree strongly, it can create lasting divisions. Maybe that's where human stubbornness comes in handy. We're too pig-headed to let disagreements destroy our relationships permanently. Zara smiled at that. Perhaps I should adopt a more human approach to family conflict. After Zara went inside, Marcus returned to his workshop to prepare for the next day's work. The main engine repairs would be the most challenging part of the job, requiring him to integrate human power generation technology with Valdris propulsion systems. He spent several hours reviewing technical specifications and designing interface modules. The engine was the heart of the ship, and any mistakes could be catastrophic. But he was confident in his approach. The work they had done on the navigation system had taught him valuable lessons about bridging the gap between human and Valdris technology. The key was understanding that he wasn't just replacing components. He was creating a new hybrid system that combined the best aspects of both technological approaches.
It wouldn't be purely Valdris or purely human. It would be something unique.
The next morning brought an unexpected visitor to Marcus's workshop. A tall, imposing figure in expensive clothing stood examining his tools with obvious disapproval. The alien had the distinctive features of a Corvan merchant: gray skin, elongated skull, and the elaborate ceremonial scars that indicated high social status. "You are the human engineer who claims to repair Valdris vessels?" the Corvan asked in heavily accented standard.
"That's right. Marcus Chen. How can I help you?" "I am Corax Valthuan, representative of the Valdris Embassy.
I have been informed that you are attempting unauthorized modifications to a registered Valdris vessel."
Marcus felt a chill of concern. Diplomatic complications were the last thing he needed.
"The modifications are being done with the full consent of the ship's owner.
She's right here if you want to speak with her." The issue is not consent. The issue is competency.
Valdris technology requires specialized training and certification to modify safely.
Before Marcus could respond, Zara emerged from the ship's airlock.
She had obviously overheard the conversation, and her expression was not friendly.
"Corax Valthuan," she said coldly.
"I should have expected the embassy would involve itself in my affairs."
"Lady Zara, your father has asked us to ensure your safe return to Valdris Prime." "Lady Zara?"
Marcus wondered about that title, but he kept his questions to himself.
"My father has no authority over my actions.
I am a free citizen, and I will repair my ship as I see fit. With respect, lady, your ship requires proper Valdris components and certified technicians."
This human's modifications could be dangerous. Marcus decided it was time to speak up. "With respect, Mr. Valthuan, I've been working on this ship for 2 days. If my modifications were dangerous, something would have exploded by now."
The Corvan turned his disapproving gaze on Marcus.
"Humor is inappropriate when discussing matters of galactic safety, human. Safety is exactly what I'm discussing. This ship was stranded and non-functional. My repairs have restored power, life support, and navigation. How is that less safe than leaving her dead in space?" Zara stepped forward, placing herself between Marcus and the embassy representative.
"Corax, you will not interfere with these repairs. Marcus has accomplished more in 2 days than your certified technicians managed in 12. The embassy has a responsibility to ensure that Valdris technology is not compromised by unauthorized modifications. And I have a responsibility to return home before my father dies."
"Which responsibility takes priority?"
The Corvan looked uncomfortable.
"Perhaps we can arrange for emergency transport aboard a diplomatic vessel." "No.
Star Whisper is my ship, and I will not abandon her." The diplomatic standoff stretched for several awkward minutes.
Marcus decided to try a different approach. "Mr. Valthuan, would you like to inspect the work I've done so far?"
"You can verify that the modifications are safe and functional." The Corvan looked skeptical but nodded.
"I suppose that would be appropriate."
They spent the next hour touring the ship while Marcus explained his repair approach.
He demonstrated the interface modules and showed how human components had been integrated with Valdris systems.
Despite his initial hostility, the embassy representative seemed impressed by the quality of the work.
"This is unexpected," he admitted as they examined the navigation array.
"The integration is crude but functional."
"Crude but effective," Marcus corrected.
"Sometimes that's more valuable than elegant but fragile."
"The modifications do appear to be safe," Corax conceded. "However, I must insist on a formal safety inspection before the vessel is cleared for interstellar flight."
Zara looked ready to object, but Marcus quickly agreed.
"That's reasonable. Safety is important."
They scheduled the inspection for the following day, after Marcus had completed the engine repairs. The embassy representative left with obvious reluctance, clearly unhappy with the situation but unable to find legitimate grounds for stopping the work.
"I apologize for that interruption," Zara said after Corax had gone.
"The embassy tends to be protective of Valdris interests."
"He called you Lady Zara. Is there something you haven't told me?" Zara looked uncomfortable. "My family has some standing in Valdris society."
"It is not important." Marcus suspected there was more to the story, but he didn't press the issue.
Everyone was entitled to their privacy.
They returned to work on the main engine, which proved to be even more complex than the navigation system. The propulsion technology was based on principles that human science barely understood, involving the manipulation of spacetime itself to create forward momentum. "This is incredible," Marcus said as he studied the engine core. "You're not just pushing against space. You're actually bending it. The engine creates a localized distortion in spacetime," Zara explained. "The ship falls forward through the distortion, achieving faster-than-light travel without actually exceeding the speed of light. That's genius. Human FTL drives just brute force their way through hyperspace. This is much more elegant." The challenge was integrating human power generation systems with the Valdres spacetime manipulation technology. The engine required enormous amounts of precisely controlled energy, delivered in specific patterns that matched the natural frequencies of local space. Marcus spent hours designing interface modules that could translate between human power systems and Valdres engine requirements. It was the most complex engineering problem he had ever tackled, requiring him to combine principles from multiple scientific disciplines. "You know," he said during a break, "I think I'm learning more from this job than you are." "How so?" "This repair is forcing me to think about technology in completely new ways. I'm not just fixing your ship. I'm discovering new approaches to engineering that could revolutionize human starship design." Zara looked thoughtful. "Perhaps that is the real value of cooperation between species. Not just sharing existing knowledge, but creating new knowledge together." As the day progressed, they made steady progress on the engine repairs. The hybrid power systems were coming together, and initial tests showed promising results. The engine couldn't match the performance of the original Valdres technology, but it would be sufficient to get Zara home. "Power coupling is stable," Zara reported from the engine monitoring station. "Energy conversion efficiency is approximately 70% of original specifications. That should be enough for interstellar travel," Marcus replied as he sealed the final interface module. "You might have to make a few extra stops to refuel, but you can make the journey." They worked late into the evening, fine-tuning the engine systems and running comprehensive diagnostics. By the time they finished, Star Whisper was ready for its safety inspection. "I cannot believe what you have accomplished," Zara said as they stood in the engine room, surrounded by the hybrid technology they had created together. "2 days ago, my ship was nothing more than an expensive piece of scrap metal. Now she lives again." Marcus felt a deep sense of satisfaction. This had been the most challenging and rewarding job of his career. But, more than that, he had made a friend and learned things that would change how he approached engineering forever. "We accomplished it," he corrected. "I couldn't have done this without your knowledge of Valdres technology. And I could not have done it without your human talent for improvisation and adaptation." They stood in comfortable silence, admiring their work. The engine core hummed with quiet power, and the interface modules pulsed with soft light as they translated between human and Valdres systems. "There is something I should tell you," Zara said quietly. "About my family, and why the embassy is so interested in my affairs." Marcus turned to look at her. "You don't have to explain anything. I think I do. You have risked much to help me, and you deserve to know the truth." She took a deep breath. "My father is not just a scholar. He is the senior archivist of the Valdres Historical Council. In human terms, you might say he is equivalent to your Secretary of Cultural Heritage. And, my family, we are what you would call nobility." Marcus absorbed this information. "So when the embassy representative called you lady, he meant it literally?" "Yes. I am Lady Zara Valanchuan, daughter of Lord Anchuan Valzefis, heir to one of the oldest families in Valdres society." "And you chose to become a diplomatic courier instead of following the traditional path for Valdres nobility?" "I wanted to see the galaxy and make my own way in the world. My father saw it as a rejection of family duty and honor." Marcus understood now why their relationship was strained. In traditional societies, family duty often trumped personal desires. That explains why the embassy is so interested in your welfare. And why your ship is so well equipped for a civilian vessel. It also explains why my repairs are so important. If something happens to me, it will be seen as a failure of Valdres technology and engineering. The political implications could be significant. Marcus felt a new weight of responsibility. He wasn't just repairing a ship. He was preserving the reputation of an entire civilization's technological capabilities. Well, he said finally, I guess we'd better make sure these repairs hold together.
Zara smiled.
I have complete confidence in our work. You have shown me that sometimes the best solution is not the most elegant one, but the one that actually works. As they prepared to leave the ship for the night, Marcus reflected on what he had learned over the past 2 days. The technical knowledge was valuable, but the real lesson was about cooperation and understanding between different cultures. Humans and Valdris approached problems in fundamentally different ways, but those differences could be complementary rather than contradictory. Human adaptability and Valdris elegance could work together to create solutions that neither species could achieve alone. It was a lesson that extended far beyond starship repair. In a galaxy filled with diverse species and cultures, the ability to bridge differences and find common ground might be humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization. Tomorrow would bring the final day of repairs and the crucial safety inspection. But Marcus was confident that their hybrid creation would pass every test. They had built something new and unique, a fusion of human and Valdris engineering that represented the best of both worlds. The third day arrived with an atmosphere of nervous anticipation. Marcus arrived at the docking bay to find not only Zara waiting for him, but also Corax Velthuan and 2 additional Valdris officials he didn't recognize. Their formal robes and ceremonial insignia marked them as high-ranking members of the diplomatic corps. The safety inspection team, Zara explained quietly as Marcus approached. They arrived early this morning. One of the new arrivals stepped forward, an elderly Valdris woman with intricate silver markings on her pale blue skin. I am Ambassador Lyris Velkethera, Senior Technical Advisor to the Valdris Embassy. We are here to evaluate the safety and functionality of the modifications made to this vessel. Marcus nodded respectfully. I'm happy to demonstrate the work we've done. Everything has been thoroughly tested and documented. We shall see, the ambassador replied coolly. Valdris technology requires precise calibration and harmonic balance. Unauthorized modifications can have consequences that extend far beyond the immediate vessel. The inspection began with a comprehensive examination of the ship's systems. The Valdris officials brought sophisticated testing equipment that Marcus had never seen before. They scanned every component, measured energy flows, and analyzed the harmonic resonances of the hybrid systems. Marcus watched nervously as they examined his interface modules. The devices looked crude and improvised compared to the elegant Valdris technology, but they functioned properly. He had tested and retested every connection, every calibration, every line of code in the control systems. These interface modules are unexpected, Ambassador Lyris admitted as she studied the navigation array. The design philosophy is completely foreign to our technological traditions. But they work, Zara interjected. The navigation systems are fully functional. Functional, yes. But at what cost? The ambassador pointed to one of Marcus's adaptations. This modification has altered the harmonic signature of the entire navigation array. The ship will no longer resonate with standard Valdris navigation beacons. Marcus felt a sinking sensation. He hadn't considered the broader compatibility issues with Valdris infrastructure. What does that mean, practically speaking, he asked. It means Lady Zara's ship will be unable to dock at many Valdris facilities without significant modifications to their systems, Corax explained. The harmonic signatures must match for safe docking procedures. Zara looked troubled. This could be a serious problem for future operations. Marcus's mind raced. He had focused so intently on making the ship functional that he hadn't considered how the modifications would affect its compatibility with existing Valdris infrastructure. Wait, he said suddenly. What if we add a harmonic translation layer to the docking systems? The Valdris officials looked skeptical, but Ambassador Lyris seemed intrigued. Explain. Marcus pulled up his design interface and began sketching rapidly. We create a secondary system that can switch between the modified harmonic signature and the standard Valdris signature. When approaching a Valdris facility, the ship temporarily reverts to standard harmonics for docking procedures. That would require real-time recalibration of multiple systems, Corax objected. The complexity would be enormous. Complex, yes. But not impossible. Marcus was warming to the idea. Humans use adaptive systems all the time. Our ships constantly adjust their configurations based on local conditions. Ambassador Lyris studied the preliminary design. This approach has merit, but it would require extensive testing to ensure safety.
How long would such testing take? Zara asked with obvious concern. Under normal circumstances, several months, the ambassador replied. Zara's face fell.
Several months would be far too late to see her father. Marcus looked at the design again, his mind working furiously. There had to be a faster solution.
What if we simplify the approach, he said. Instead of a full harmonic translation system, we create a portable interface module that can be installed temporarily during docking procedures.
He began sketching again, this time showing a modular device that could be connected to the ship's external docking ports. The ship maintains its modified harmonics for normal operation, but this module creates a standard Veldris signature zone around the docking ports. It's like a translator that only works when you need to communicate with someone who speaks a different language. The Veldris officials examined the new design with interest. It was much simpler than the full translation system, but it addressed the compatibility issue. This could work, Ambassador Lyris admitted. The complexity is manageable, and the risk factors are acceptable.
How long to build and test such a device? Zara asked hopefully. Marcus calculated quickly.
6 hours to build, maybe 2 hours to test and calibrate.
We could have it ready by this evening. The ambassador looked surprised. You can create a harmonic interface module in 8 hours?
It's not going to be pretty, but it'll work.
Human engineering is all about finding the fastest path to a working solution.
The Veldris officials conferred in their native language for several minutes. Finally, Ambassador Lyris turned back to Marcus and Zara.
We will allow you to proceed with this additional modification. If the harmonic interface module functions as promised, we will certify the ship as safe for interstellar travel. Marcus felt a surge of relief and excitement. Thank you. We won't let you down.
They spent the rest of the morning working on the harmonic interface module while the Veldris officials continued their safety inspection. The device was essentially a sophisticated signal processor that could analyze incoming harmonic patterns and generate appropriate responses. This is fascinating technology, Zara observed as Marcus programmed the module's control systems.
You are creating a real-time translator between two different technological languages. That's exactly what it is.
And the beautiful thing is, once we perfect this approach, it could be used to interface human ships with Veldris facilities, or Veldris ships with human facilities.
The implications were staggering.
A universal harmonic interface could revolutionize interstellar commerce and diplomacy by allowing ships from different species to dock at any station regardless of their technological origins.
You realize what you have invented here? Ambassador Lyris said as she watched Marcus work. This technology could transform galactic transportation.
Marcus paused in his programming. He had been so focused on solving Zara's immediate problem that he hadn't considered the broader applications.
I suppose it could.
But, right now, I'm just trying to get one ship ready for departure.
The ambassador smiled, the first warm expression Marcus had seen from her. Spoken like a true engineer.
Focus on the immediate problem, and let the implications worry about themselves.
By midday, the harmonic interface module was complete and ready for testing.
Marcus installed it on Star Whisper's main docking port and began the calibration process. Initiating harmonic scan, he announced as the module powered up.
Let's see if this thing actually works.
The device hummed quietly as it analyzed the ship's modified harmonic signature. Then, with a subtle shift in tone, it began generating the standard Veldris docking harmonics. Perfect resonance achieved, Ambassador Lyris reported from her scanning equipment.
The module is producing a flawless standard Veldris signature. Zara let out a sigh of relief.
It works. Better than I expected, Marcus admitted. The harmonic translation is cleaner than my original calculations suggested.
They ran additional tests throughout the afternoon, verifying that the module could switch between signatures quickly and reliably.
The Veldris officials put it through increasingly demanding scenarios, but the device performed flawlessly.
This is remarkable work, Ambassador Lyris said as they concluded the testing. You have solved the problem that our best engineers considered intractable.
Sometimes an outside perspective is exactly what you need, Marcus replied. I didn't know it was supposed to be impossible, so I just assumed it could be done.
As evening approached, the Veldris officials completed their comprehensive safety inspection.
They had examined every system, tested every interface, and analyzed every modification Marcus had made to the ship.
The vessel is certified as safe for interstellar travel, Ambassador Lyris announced formally.
The modifications are unconventional but functional, and the harmonic interface module adequately addresses compatibility concerns.
Zara's relief was visible. Thank you. This means more to me than you can imagine.
There is one additional matter, the ambassador continued. The Valdris Technical Council would like to study your harmonic interface design.
With your permission, we would like to create detailed documentation of the technology.
Marcus looked surprised.
You want to study human engineering techniques? Your approach to technological integration is unlike anything in our experience. There may be applications that we have not considered. I'm honored. Of course, you can study the design. The ambassador smiled again. Excellent. The council will be very interested to learn from human innovation. As the diplomatic team prepared to leave, Ambassador Lyris pulled Marcus aside.
I want you to know that what you have accomplished here extends far beyond ship repair. You have demonstrated that cooperation between our species can produce solutions neither could achieve alone.
That wasn't really my intention.
I was just trying to help a friend get home. The best innovations often come from such simple motivations, the ambassador replied.
The Valdris government will remember this contribution to interspecies cooperation. After the diplomats left, Marcus and Zara found themselves alone with Star Whisper. The ship hummed with quiet power, ready for the journey ahead.
I can't believe it's actually ready, Zara said as they walked through the corridors they had worked in for 3 intense days.
Believe it.
Your ship is as ready as I can make her. They reached the engine room, where the hybrid systems they had created together pulsed with steady light. The fusion of human and Valdris technology was visible everywhere, in interface modules and adapted components and creative solutions to seemingly impossible problems.
Marcus, Zara said quietly, how can I ever thank you for what you have done? You already have.
This has been the most interesting and challenging work of my career.
I should be thanking you for trusting me with it. There must be something I can do to repay you for your service.
Marcus had been dreading this conversation. The work had taken 3 full days and required expensive components and specialized knowledge. Under normal circumstances, he would charge enough to cover several months of operating expenses.
But these weren't normal circumstances.
Zara was racing to see her dying father, and he couldn't bring himself to present her with a bill that might compromise her family finances.
Let's talk about payment later, he said. Right now, you should focus on getting home. That is not an acceptable answer.
You have provided professional services of the highest quality. You must be compensated fairly.
Marcus sighed. Honestly, Zara, I'm not sure what fair compensation would be. This job was unlike anything I've ever done.
I learned as much as I contributed.
Zara studied his face carefully. You are being evasive again. Why? Because I don't want you to worry about money when you should be preparing for your journey. And, because you know that I cannot afford to pay what such work is worth? Marcus looked uncomfortable. I didn't say that. You didn't need to. I am not wealthy, Marcus. My ship and my independence are all I have.
If I pay you what this work is worth, I will have nothing left for the journey home. They stood in awkward silence for a moment. Marcus had suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed made him even more reluctant to discuss payment.
Look, he said finally, let's figure out something that works for both of us. Maybe we can arrange some kind of payment plan, or... No.
Zara's voice was firm. I will not accept charity, even from a friend.
It's not charity. It is charity, and I cannot accept it.
My pride will not allow such a thing.
Marcus understood pride.
It was something humans and Valdris apparently had in common.
Then, let's find another solution. What can you offer besides money? Zara thought for a moment. Knowledge.
I could teach you more about Valdris technology and navigation principles. That knowledge might be valuable for your future work.
It wasn't a bad offer.
The techniques Marcus had learned during the repair could indeed be valuable for future projects. But it didn't seem like adequate compensation for 3 days of intensive work. That's something, Marcus said carefully.
But I'm not sure it's enough. Then, perhaps there is something else. Zara looked thoughtful. My family has connections throughout the galaxy.
Perhaps I could arrange introductions to potential clients who might need your unique skills.
Now that was interesting.
Marcus had always worked on local repairs for the residents of Kepler Station.
Access to a broader client base could transform his business.
That might work, he admitted. But I still feel like I'm taking advantage of your situation.
You are not taking advantage.
You are accepting fair exchange for valuable service.
Zara smiled.
Besides, I think you underestimate the value of what you offer. Your skills could be very valuable to the right clients. They worked out the details of their arrangement over the next hour. Zara would provide extensive training in Valdris technology and navigation principles, along with introductions to potential clients who might need innovative engineering solutions.
There is one more thing, Zara said as they finalized their agreement. I would like you to consider something.
What's that?
Come with me.
Marcus looked surprised.
Come with you where? To Valdris Prime.
You have created something remarkable here, something that bridges the gap between our technologies. The Valdris Technical Council would be very interested in your methods and innovations. The offer was tempting. Marcus had never traveled beyond the local star systems, and the chance to visit one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy was appealing. I appreciate the offer, but I can't just abandon my business. Your business is repairing ships. On Valdris Prime, you could learn to repair ships you have never imagined.
The experience would transform your capabilities.
It was a compelling argument. The knowledge he could gain from studying advanced Valdris technology would be invaluable.
How long would we be talking about?
The journey to Valdris Prime takes 6 standard days with a properly functioning ship. You could spend a few weeks studying our technology, then return with knowledge that would revolutionize your work. Marcus found himself seriously considering the proposal. It was a rare opportunity, and the potential benefits were enormous. I need some time to think about it, he said finally.
Of course. But decide quickly. I plan to depart tomorrow morning.
As they prepared to leave Star Whisper for the final time, Marcus reflected on the incredible journey they had shared. 3 days ago, he had been a local mechanic working on routine repairs. Now he was the inventor of a revolutionary interface technology and the recipient of an invitation to one of the most advanced worlds in the galaxy. Whatever you decide, Zara said as they sealed the ship's airlock, I want you to know that these 3 days have changed my understanding of what cooperation between species can achieve. It's changed mine too. I always thought of alien technology as something foreign and incomprehensible. Now I see it as just another engineering challenge. Perhaps that is humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. The ability to see challenges where others see barriers. They walked back to Marcus's workshop in comfortable silence, each lost in their own thoughts. The shop seemed different now, smaller somehow. The routine repairs and standard modifications that had filled Marcus's days for years suddenly seemed limited and confining.
I have a confession to make, Zara said as they reached the workshop entrance.
What's that? When I first came here, I did not believe you could repair my ship. I was desperate and had no other options.
Marcus laughed. I figured as much. No one comes to a human mechanic for Valdris repairs unless they're out of alternatives.
But you surprised me. Not just with your technical skills, but with your willingness to take risks and think creatively. You approached problems in ways that I could never have imagined.
That's just human nature.
We're too stubborn to accept that something can't be done.
Perhaps. But I think it is more than stubbornness. I think it is courage. The courage to attempt what others consider impossible. As they said their goodbyes, Marcus found himself thinking about Zara's invitation. The opportunity to visit Valdris Prime and study their advanced technology was extraordinary.
It could transform his career and open up possibilities he had never considered. But it would also mean leaving behind everything familiar and venturing into the unknown. It was exactly the kind of risky decision that humans were famous for making. He smiled as he realized he had already made his choice. Tomorrow morning, he would be joining Zara on her journey to Valdris Prime. It was time to see what other challenges the galaxy had to offer. As he began closing up his workshop, Marcus reflected on the unexpected turns his life had taken. 3 days ago, his biggest concern had been fixing a faulty power coupling on a cargo hauler. Now he was preparing for an interstellar journey that could change the course of his entire career. It was, he thought, a very human kind of adventure. Unexpected, risky, and full of possibilities he couldn't yet imagine. Just the way he liked it. Marcus spent the night packing his essential tools and arranging for his workshop to be maintained during his absence. His neighbor, an elderly Centaurian engineer named Kath, agreed to handle any emergency repairs that might arise. It wasn't ideal, but it would have to do. As dawn broke over Kepler Station's artificial horizon, Marcus found himself standing at the docking bay with a single travel bag and a toolkit that contained his most precious instruments. He felt nervous and excited in equal measure. Zara was already aboard Star Whisper, running final pre-flight checks. The ship looked different somehow, more alive now that all its systems were functioning properly. The hybrid technology they had created together hummed with quiet efficiency. "Ready for departure?" Zara asked as Marcus came aboard. "As ready as I'll ever be. This is my first time leaving the local system. You will find interstellar travel quite peaceful once we reach cruising velocity. The journey to Valdris Prime will give us time to discuss the technical principles you will need to understand." Marcus secured his belongings in the small guest quarters Zara had prepared for him. The room was compact but comfortable, with the same flowing design aesthetic that characterized the rest of the ship. They completed the departure procedures and received clearance from station control. As Star Whisper moved away from the docking bay, Marcus watched Kepler Station grow smaller through the viewports. For the first time in his adult life, he was leaving everything familiar behind. "Nervous?" Zara asked as she noticed his expression. "A little. Excited, mostly. This is exactly the kind of adventure I've always dreamed about but never thought I'd actually experience." The ship accelerated smoothly away from the station, heading for the edge of the system where they could safely engage the faster-than-light drive. Marcus was fascinated by the navigation displays, which showed the gravitational currents and spacetime distortions that Valdris ships used for navigation. "It's like watching the invisible architecture of the universe," he observed as colorful patterns flowed across the screens. "That is exactly what it is. Most species navigate by fighting against natural forces. Valdris navigation is about finding harmony with those forces." As they reached the jump point, Zara began the sequence for engaging the FTL drive. Marcus watched with professional interest as the hybrid engine systems he had helped create came online. "Power distribution is stable," he reported from the engineering console. "All interface modules showing green across the board. Excellent. Engaging spacetime distortion in 3, 2, 1. The universe seemed to twist around them, and Marcus felt a moment of disorientation as Star Whisper slipped into faster-than-light travel. Then, the sensation passed, and they were cruising through the strange non-space between stars. "How does it feel?" Zara asked. "Different from human FTL travel. Smoother, somehow. Like we're sliding through the universe instead of punching a hole through it." That is an apt description. Human faster-than-light technology is indeed quite aggressive compared to our approach. Over the following days, Zara proved to be an excellent teacher. She explained the theoretical foundations of Valdris technology, from their biomechanical engineering principles to their sophisticated understanding of quantum mechanics. Marcus found himself learning concepts that human science had barely begun to explore. "Your people really are centuries ahead of us technologically," he admitted during one of their study sessions. "In some areas, yes. But you have capabilities that we lack. Your adaptability and innovation allow you to solve problems that would stymie more traditional approaches. It's interesting how different species have developed different strengths. Humans are good at improvisation, Valdris excel at elegance and harmony. What about other species?" Zara considered the question. "The Kath are masters of precision manufacturing. Their tolerances are measured in atomic distances. The Zaliks understand energy manipulation better than anyone, while the Morandi have an intuitive grasp of biological systems that surpasses even our own achievements. It sounds like the galaxy is full of specialists." Exactly. Each species has found its own path to technological advancement. The challenge is learning to combine those different approaches effectively. On the fourth day of their journey, they received an unexpected communication. The ship's communication system activated, displaying the image of an elderly Valdris man with the distinctive ceremonial markings of high academic rank. "Father," Zara said quietly. Lord Antoine Belzethis looked exactly as Marcus had imagined from Zara's descriptions. He was tall and dignified, with silver hair and penetrating eyes that seemed to take in everything at once.
"Daughter, I understand you are returning home."
"Yes, father.
I received word about your condition."
The old man's expression softened slightly.
"I did not expect you to make the journey.
Our last conversation was difficult." "Family is more important than disagreements about career choices," Zara replied, unconsciously echoing something Marcus had told her days earlier.
"Indeed.
I have had much time to think recently, and I realized that my disappointment was misplaced. You chose to see the galaxy and serve as a bridge between our people and others.
That is a noble calling." Marcus could see the relief in Zara's expression.
The reconciliation she had hoped for was beginning. "I have brought someone with me," Zara continued.
"A human engineer who has made remarkable contributions to our understanding of technological integration." Lord Antoine's eyes focused on Marcus for the first time. "The human who repaired your ship?"
"Marcus Chen," Marcus introduced himself.
"I'm honored to meet you, Lord Antoine. Ambassador Lyris has spoken highly of your work.
She says you have invented a technology that could revolutionize interspecies cooperation." Marcus felt uncomfortable with such praise. "I was just trying to solve an immediate problem."
"I didn't realize the broader implications at the time." "The best innovations often arise from such practical motivations," Lord Antoine observed.
"I look forward to meeting you in person and learning about your methods." The conversation continued for several minutes, with father and daughter gradually warming to each other as they talked. Marcus was struck by the obvious affection between them, despite the years of estrangement. After the communication ended, Zara seemed more relaxed than Marcus had seen her since they first met. "That went well," he observed.
"Better than I had hoped.
My father has always been proud and stubborn, but age seems to have given him perspective."
"Family relationships are complicated, regardless of species.
But love usually finds a way to overcome disagreements." "You were right when you said that blood is blood."
I had forgotten that lesson." The remaining 2 days of the journey passed quickly.
Marcus continued his intensive education in Valdris technology while Zara shared stories about her homeworld and culture. He began to understand not just how Valdris technology worked, but why it had developed in the directions it had. "Your entire civilization is built around the concept of harmony," he realized during one of their discussions.
"That is correct.
We seek balance between natural forces, between individual desires and collective needs, between tradition and innovation. It explains why your technology is so elegant.
You're not just building functional devices.
You're creating instruments that resonate with natural principles.
While humans build technology that adapts to whatever conditions it encounters.
Neither approach is superior, but they are complementary." On their final day in space, Marcus found himself both excited and apprehensive about reaching Valdris Prime. The opportunity to study advanced alien technology was extraordinary, but he was also aware that he would be one of the few humans ever to visit the Valdris homeworld. "Are you worried about how your people will react to a human visitor?" he asked Zara.
"Some may be skeptical initially. But Ambassador Lyris has already sent word about your contributions. The Technical Council is very interested in your methods." "What exactly will I be doing there?" "You will work with our best engineers to document your technological integration techniques. They want to understand how you bridge the gap between different engineering philosophies."
"That sounds like a lot of pressure."
Zara smiled. "You have already proven that you can handle pressure. Besides, you will not be working alone. I will be there to help translate between human and Valdris concepts."
As they approached Valdris Prime, Marcus got his first view of an advanced alien homeworld. The planet was breathtakingly beautiful, with vast blue oceans and continents covered in crystalline cities that seemed to grow organically from the landscape.
"It's incredible," he breathed as they descended through the atmosphere. "Each city is designed to harmonize with the natural environment. We do not impose structures on the landscape. We invite them to become part of it." The spaceport was unlike anything in human space.
Instead of the harsh geometric structures that characterized human facilities, the Valdres spaceport flowed like water, its organic curves perfectly integrated with the surrounding forest. As they landed, Marcus could see delegations waiting to greet them. The harmonic interface module performed perfectly, allowing Star Whisper to dock seamlessly with the Valdres facilities.
Ready to make history? Zara asked as they prepared to disembark.
I think we already have, Marcus replied, thinking about the journey that had brought them together. The reception was formal but warm. Lord Antuan was there, along with members of the Technical Council and several other dignitaries. Marcus was struck by the obvious affection between Zara and her father as they embraced for the first time in years.
Marcus Chen, Lord Antuan said as he approached. Welcome to Valdres Prime. I understand we have much to learn from each other. The honor is mine, Lord Antuan.
I'm looking forward to studying your technologies and sharing what I've learned.
Excellent.
The Technical Council has prepared extensive facilities for your work. But first, you must rest and recover from your journey. As they were escorted through the crystalline corridors of the spaceport, Marcus reflected on the remarkable chain of events that had brought him here. A routine repair job had become an interstellar adventure, and a desperate customer had become a trusted friend and teacher.
What are you thinking about? Zara asked as she noticed his contemplative expression.
Just amazed at how things have turned out. A week ago, I was fixing cargo haulers on a space station.
Now I'm on an alien homeworld about to work with some of the most advanced engineers in the galaxy.
Life has a way of taking unexpected turns. The key is being ready to embrace new opportunities when they arise.
Is that a Valdres philosophy? No, that's something I learned from watching humans.
Your species has a talent for turning unexpected circumstances into advantages. Over the following weeks, Marcus worked intensively with the Valdres Technical Council. They were fascinated by his integration techniques and his ability to adapt technologies from different sources. In return, they shared advanced concepts that revolutionized his understanding of engineering.
You approach problems from a completely different direction than we do, observed Kethra Velithus, the council's senior engineer.
Where we seek to perfect existing solutions, you create entirely new ones.
Both approaches have value, Marcus replied.
Perfect solutions are elegant and efficient, but adaptive solutions are robust and flexible.
Perhaps the ideal approach combines both philosophies. Perfect adaptation or adaptive perfection.
The collaboration produced remarkable results. Working together, they developed new interface technologies that could bridge not just human and Valdres systems, but technologies from multiple species. The implications for galactic commerce and cooperation were staggering. We are creating a universal translation protocol for technological systems, Zara observed as they reviewed their latest designs. It's like the Rosetta Stone for engineering, Marcus agreed. Any species technology could interface with any other species systems. The work was challenging and rewarding, but Marcus found himself thinking increasingly about home. The knowledge he was gaining would transform his capabilities as an engineer, but he was eager to apply that knowledge to practical problems. You are ready to return to your own world, Zara observed during one of their evening walks through the crystal gardens surrounding the Technical Institute.
Is it that obvious?
You have learned what you came here to learn.
Now you want to put that knowledge to use. Marcus nodded.
This has been incredible, and I'm grateful for the opportunity.
But I'm an engineer, not a theorist. I need to be building things and solving problems. I understand.
The council has offered you a permanent position here, but I told them you would probably decline.
They offered me what? A position as a senior consultant on interspecies technological integration.
It would be a prestigious and well-compensated role. Marcus was flattered but not surprised that he felt no temptation to accept.
It's an honor to be asked, but you're right.
I belong back on Kepler Station, putting this knowledge to practical use.
There is something else, Zara continued.
I have been offered a new assignment as a special envoy for technological cooperation. I would travel throughout the galaxy, facilitating partnerships between species with different technological capabilities.
That sounds perfect for you. It would mean leaving Valdres Prime again, probably for years at a time.
But it's exactly the kind of work you're suited for. You understand both the technical and cultural aspects of interspecies cooperation.
Zara smiled. I was hoping you would see it that way.
And I was hoping you might be interested in occasional consulting work.
What kind of consulting work?
The kind where a human engineer helps solve impossible problems that arise when different technologies need to work together.
Marcus grinned. That sounds like exactly my kind of work.
They spent several more days finalizing their research and preparing documentation that would be shared with engineers throughout the galaxy. The universal interface technology they had developed would revolutionize how different species technologies could work together.
You realize what you have accomplished here? Lord Antuan said during their farewell dinner. You have created bridges between civilizations. That is a legacy that will endure for generations.
I just fixed a broken ship, Marcus protested.
Everything else grew out of that. The greatest achievements often begin with simple actions.
Your willingness to help a stranger in need has led to advances that will benefit the entire galaxy. As they prepared to depart Veldris Prime, Marcus reflected on the extraordinary journey he had experienced. He was returning home with knowledge and capabilities that would transform his work, along with contracts for consulting projects that would take him throughout the galaxy.
Any regrets about leaving? Zara asked as they boarded Star Whisper for the return journey. None at all. This has been incredible, but I'm ready to get back to hands-on engineering work. And I am ready to begin my new assignment.
Though I admit I will miss working with you regularly.